Hi there, Richard Fulmer here, and welcome to another Richard's Rock Rambles. We're carrying on with our look at albums that are 50 years old, and today we're looking at a band that is still going today. In fact, they're still producing great albums, still touring when they can, obviously. And I'm talking about the great British progressive rock, classic rock, hard rock, call them what you will, Uriah Heep. And in particular, we're talking about the album Demons and Wizards, which, along with Magician's Birthday, the album that came out afterwards, and with the very first one, Very, Very, Very Humble, Salisbury, Look at Yourself, Demons and Wizards, Magician's Birthday, Sweet Freedom. For me, that was the sweet period for Uriah Heep, where they were really at the top of their game. And they would have in this album what would become known as the classic lineup. I mean, they had numerous lineups over the years. In fact, the only remaining guy from the original lineup is Mick Box on guitar and vocals. So he's the only guy left from the original lineup. Nonetheless, Demons and Wizards is the one that we're chatting about today. And like I said, that was the period when they couldn't do anything wrong. In the beginning, they had a few lineup changes, in particular with drummers and bassists. But the two that they got in for this album would last for the next few. So the album was recorded at the Lansdowne Studios in London between March and April 1972. And it was released on the 19th of May 1972. It was on the Bronze label, Jerry Bronze label. Years later, Motorhead would also get onto that label. And produced by Jerry Bron, and the artwork was done by Roger Dean, who of course did a whole bunch of artwork for different bands. He did for Badger, he did for Yes, I think he did a few for Budgie, if I'm not mistaken, and he did a couple for Uriah Heep, and this one was an iconic one, I'll show you in a second. So it has been re-released a few times. In fact, the one that I've got is the 1996 re-release, which has got 3 bonus tracks. And there's also a 27 release on the Sanctuary label, which is a double disc deluxe edition that I don't have, unfortunately. So who was in the lineup? Original singer, David Byron. He was there on lead vocals and co-lead backing vocals as well. Mick Box on lead guitar and vocals. Ken Hensley on keyboards, lead and backing vocals, guitars and percussion. Besides also being their sort of main songwriter, all of those early hits were written by Ken Hensley, or either written by him or co-written by him. Gary Thane, he was the new guy on bass. He was a New Zealander, and he had come from the Keith Hartley band. So he'd done a few albums with them, and then he joined Uriah Heep. Great bassist. Sadly, also passed away some time back. It's another thing with this band. They've had so many deaths. It's quite sad, really. And then on drums, Lee Kerslake on drums and backing vocals. So he was the other new addition to the band. And those two guys, the rhythm section, would lock in, and they would last, as I said, for the next few albums. The album went gold in 1972. Didn't go platinum, although I think by now it must be platinum after all these years that have passed. So let's have a look at this album. This is just such an amazing cover. I love this Roger Dean artwork. If you can see, sorry about the glare. There you go, there's the wizard, or the demon, it's probably the wizard, with that sort of butterfly motif on his back, and that sort of waterfall going there. And that's the back, just the songs. And this is the one with the 3 bonus tracks. And let's see if there's anything I can show you inside. It's just, I don't know if you can see, there's a picture of the guys standing over there. All the different songs and who wrote what. And there's a little... Ken Hensley did most of the intro writing for all these albums. And they put that inside here along with a few words from Mick Box as well, talking about the album. A few ads from back in the day. And I think this was on the inside sleeve of the vinyl originally. The guy with the headphones there, I think that's Ken Hensley. And that's David Byron at the top there. And who else have we got here? Yeah, a few others, Gary Thane and a few other guys at the bottom there. And there you have the lyrics. It's another thing about this band, they had great lyrics. This album and Magician's Birthday were very sort of fantasy based, sort of sword and sorcery. But that was the theme back in the early 70s, especially with the prog groups like Yes, King Crimson, Uriah Heep, although they weren't really a prog band, but they had similar sort of themes. And there's a final picture of the guys standing there. I think that's Ken Hensley there, leaning up against the wall there. So there we go. So let's have a look at the songs, the most important part of the album. And I reckon this album has got so many hits on it that there's not really a bad track. There's no filler on here. Every track is amazing. Kicks off with The Wizard, which would become a huge hit for the band and one which to this day they have to play live. It starts off with that sort of acoustic guitar from Ken Hensley, Mick Box, I think. And David Byron's vocals on here were just amazing. You know, he was such an incredible singer. And yet he had this confidence problem, and he never thought he was good enough. You know, he was always trying to be somebody else. You know, he was always trying to be Rod Stewart, or he was always trying to be Steve Marriott. Heaven knows why. I mean, the guy had an incredible voice, and for me, at least in the top 10 top vocalists from the early 70s rock scene. So then you go into Traveler in Time, which has got some really interesting time changes from Lee Kerslake on drums. Brilliant drummer, like I said. Very powerful drummer. I was lucky enough to catch him when Uriah Heep first came to South Africa in '94. They had a co-headlining tour with Deep Purple, and he was still the drummer at that time. Sadly, also passed on. Easy Living, that was another up-tempo hit, early hit for Uriah Heep. Poet's Justice, Circle of Hands. Excuse me, I just need a drink of water here. Circle of Hands, which I think also features Ken Hensley on vocals. And Ken Hensley and David Byron's vocals are very similar. And when they harmonized together, it was great. But the great thing with Uriah Heep as well was everybody sang in the band. Well, just about everybody. I think the only one who didn't sing at this stage was Gary Thane. And, you know, to have that sort of backing vocals going for you, it just fills out the sound. So that was Circle of Hands. And then we get to my favorite track, which is that brooding intro. I think it's electric piano or just a piano, or maybe even the Hammond B3, called Rainbow Demon. And that's a very sort of fantasy-based song. And I just love that track. That's the first one I always reach for when I go for this album. Then there's a track called All My Life, Paradise, and finishing off with The Spell. So all in all, there are 9 tracks on here, and the bonus tracks on here are Why, which was left off the original album, and then there's another version of Why, which is an extended version previously unreleased, and another previously unreleased track, Home Again to You. All 3 pretty good. Perhaps not really strong enough to go on the original album. You know, I always say that bonus tracks were left off for a reason, but it's still nice to have. So there we go. Demons and Wizards by Uriah Heep. And if you're a new person, you know, if you haven't collected them before and you want to get all the early stuff, this is the one I would reach for first. And then perhaps the one after this, Magician's Birthday, and then work your way back to Look at Yourself, which is another brilliant album, Salisbury, and very, very humble. Sweet Freedom had its moments too, but there you could see it was tapering off a bit. And then they got a few lineup changes going with John Wetton coming to the band for a few albums. And unfortunately later on, David Byron would have his drink problems and he would also pass on. So the lineup on this album, David Byron has passed on, Ken Hensley has passed on, Gary Thane has passed on, and Lee Kerslake. So the only one left from this lineup is Mick Box. Really sad. And I just heard yesterday that another great singer, keyboardist, Gary Brooker from Procol Harum has passed away. So that entire generation are slowly but surely disappearing, and it's really sad. And you kind of wonder, where are today's, similar artists? I don't think we'll see the likes of them again. But there we go. Demons and Wizards by Uriah Heep. Grab it if you don't have it yet. So in the next show, another album that's 50 years old, we're going to have a look at an album from a band that have been going for, well, they went for a long time, broke up, reformed, and the album I'm going to be chatting about is the album that I first got. It was my first sort of proper rock album, then that started me collecting albums, and that was Grand Funk. Perhaps not their most well-known album, but it's an album that's really worth checking out, and that one is the album called Phoenix. I'll catch you next time. Take it easy. Like and subscribe down below if you haven't yet. And give me a thumbs up. Any comments always welcome. And have a great week. I'll see you soon. Cheers.